For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Well, I've got to say happy Thanksgiving. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but you could very well be tuned in on Thanksgiving and completely ignoring your family, and that's the best thing to do. Hey, at least you're not addicted to your cell phone. You can't put that down. Although if you're listening on your cell phone, well, I guess we just killed two birds with one stone. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving to our American listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your time. And we're also at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Feel free to subscribe and let us know your thoughts. You can email live at jbonair.com. You know, we're in the holiday swing of things now, and so I was just saying in our meeting this morning, we taped a radio show this morning, now we're doing the podcast, and you know how sensitive society is, right? You can't say anything without offending somebody these days. And so now with Christmas carols, the song White Christmas, am I going to be judged as racist if I start singing I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas? People are probably going to take offense to that. Now, same thing with Black Friday. You know what? All Black Fridays matter. That's what I have to say for you, ladies and gentlemen. Black Fridays matter. It really does. It helps the economy. Black Fridays matter. Those are my two jokes. My two ethnically, racially charged jokes for this Thanksgiving week. I don't know. I'm in a mood. Because here's the deal. I will say things for a laugh. I'm not saying things to hurt your feelings or to offend people. Like, the reason why I make jokes like that, even here, is just the ridiculousness of it. When you look back to television how many years ago, what was not offensive, or maybe it just kind of made you laugh because it was so off the wall and ridiculous, now is just offensive and has people outraged and in an uproar. And so we've taken several steps back. I'm sure I've mentioned this a few times on the show in recent months, but like, when you say it's offensive humor, it's like, well, maybe you're just too uptight and you're not actually seeing a joke for what it is. And not all jokes are meant to be hate-filled. You know, we had Russell Peters on the show. This was going back now at least a year or two. And, you know, he said the same thing. You know, a comedian goes out there and tells jokes to get people to laugh, not to make you mad and heckle them and then storm out, like in a rage. Comedy is comedy. And so, you know, I appreciate those jokes, you know, saying White Christmas, am I going to be considered racist? Because I look at where society is right now, and everybody's so overly sensitive and hypersensitive that, you know, let's just look at things as being fun nowadays, because this could be where we have those riots and the beatings and the turmoil. We're never going to get anywhere. We're never going to progress anywhere. And you Americans, you've got 4 years of Trump coming your way, so you might as well start to have a sense of humor about things, which is interesting because you can have a sense of humor about SNL and Kate McKinnon and Alec Baldwin playing Clinton and Trump respectively. But Trump didn't have that same opinion. He's hosted the show. He's been on the show. He's poked fun at things, and even himself. But for some reason during the election, Alec Baldwin impersonating him wasn't okay. Was Trump really offended by that? I don't know. It's hard to say, right? So, you know, I've read things. I'm out there in public. I'm in the media because I'm in newspapers, on the radio, and podcast form, and I've seen some really hateful things about myself, but I just kind of am like, whatever. You know, I did a video series for a large daily newspaper, and on Twitter, a guy had posted a screenshot of me doing the video and said something to the effect of, you know, it's the kind of face that you just want to punch. Well, you know, at first it kind of bothered me, but then I was like, all right, hey, I do some really sarcastic tweets during The Bachelorette or Bachelor or just things in general, and sure, some of them are mean or rude, but at the same time, they're just to kind of get people to laugh. It's the sarcasm. So people could say things about me, and maybe it might sting for the first little bit, but then you kind of just move on, right? And you get past it. Or so you hope, anyway. I would think so. But yeah, it just like, comedy isn't comedy these days. Comedy is offensive. Everything, there's just, I don't know. And I don't like where that's going because, I'm not a very big movie fan, but when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was, DVDs, you were buying DVDs at the time, or, renting movies or going to movies and seeing them. And I always preferred the movies that made me laugh, just because I always said, you know what, there's so much that goes on in the world in terms of, well, as we said, war, hatred, whatever, that I just want to escape. I don't want a movie that's going to have to make me think. I don't have to piece together things. If I want to solve a crime, I'll watch Dateline and try to figure out who done it, right? But for movies, I just want to laugh. I just want to escape. And so that's why I really don't like movies. Just because the humor is... I don't know. I feel like the humor is like Will Ferrell, and I've never liked Will Ferrell. He's always bothered me. There are certain comedians that I've just never really liked. Will Ferrell's one of them, and so I don't know. It's like potty humor, and I don't get it. Now, sure, I will make the odd joke like that from time to time, but I don't know. It's a little bit different. I also feel like I'm old sometimes. You get older and your change of taste happens, and you used to. Again, I'm going to talk about it later on in the show. I used to love Married with Children. It was the funniest show. It was so sexist and racist and anti-obesity, like the comments that were made, and I found it funny, and I still kind of do find it funny, just because it's such a satirical show that. I don't know, like, if you get offended by everything, you really should not leave your house then. You really should just stay curled up in a ball and stay in the safety of your home, because anything is going to bother you. I write a newspaper column, as I mentioned, this is another newspaper column that I write, and I had used the word hell. And I don't remember exactly what the reference was or what, but I think I probably said, just for the hell of it, or I had said whatever. And the publisher of the newspaper had forwarded me an email that they got from somebody who was complaining about my use of HE hockey sticks. And I thought, it's 2016, buddy. You're offended by that. You should not turn on a television these days. You should not listen to teenagers speak. You should not go out anywhere. And there was a part of me that laughed about it. But then I kind of thought, I actually felt bad, because, like, here I am, I've offended somebody, and that certainly wasn't my intent. But I honestly wasn't even making a joke, right? I just happened to use the word in what I had written. So there's somebody who was offended by something totally unrelated to what my point of the actual column was. So even that, somebody was offended. So it's not like I made a joke, it was dirty, it was, political, it was about religion, it was nothing like that. I just used the word hell. And this guy sent paragraphs and paragraphs of a complaint to the newspaper. Well, needless to say, the publisher and I had a laugh at that guy's expense. We'll be right back with more chatter, 30 minutes of it today here on The Scribble.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in today. Let's talk about cell phones for just a brief minute. We're heading into book signing season, for me anyway, as it's the holidays and people are shopping. And I wrote a book a few years ago called Put Down Your Damn Phone Already, and it's a loving rant about your obnoxious cell phone use. And so it's a book geared towards two kinds of people. It's the ones who can't put down their phone and just want to have a laugh about their addiction to their cell phone, or on the flip side of that, the people who look at you and go, okay, you know what, you're addicted, you're nuts, you need to disconnect every once in a while. And so I had done a few speaking engagements, and I was talking about my other book, the other bestseller called The Official Guide to Being a Winnipeg Cheapskate. And I was at a seniors luncheon, not really, well, I guess they were seniors. And they wanted to know about saving money, and it was a bunch of grandmas, and I figured that they would appreciate that. But they actually took a liking to the book, Put Down Your Damn Phone Already. Not because they were addicted to their cell phone, but because their grandkids were. And their grandkids were the ones who weren't wanting to pay attention to the dinner table conversation and just wanted to get away to go and use their phone. So I thought that was quite funny. And so the book really was an observation about everybody and what they do and what they don't do when it comes to cell phones. Because there's a lot of ignorance about the outside world when you're using your cell phone. When you're walking, you're not caring where you're going. Now you're riding your bike and you're playing Pokemon and you're crashing into people. And it's weird because now cell phones are more a priority than humans. And to me, I've always looked at that as really awkward. You know, when you're at a restaurant and you're about to order, or the waiter has to keep coming back and forth because you've been on your phone and you're not even paying attention to the menu, well, what are you doing there, right? And so the book just has a bunch of different scenarios. Well, you know, I'll talk about some of them now. We've got some time here. But when you're at a restaurant, I joke that it's dinner for two but a table for four because each person is going to have their phone there. And I think now people aren't doing it so much. You might have it in your pocket on vibrate, but yes, both people will often have their phone out on the table. And that's more common, so I guess at lunchtime when you go for a lunch break from work, and you know, that's kind of the excuse, right? Well, it's the work phone. No, lunchtime is actually, if you believe it or not, it's actually your time to get away from work and not pay attention to those things. But for some reason, people feel the need, or that it's a justification that, you know, you have your phone on the table because it's work time. Well, no, it's not. Lunchtime is your own time. And so that's kind of funny. Now, there was a boy and his mom out for lunch one day. I was at a restaurant and I felt bad for the kid. Normally it would be the kid, you know, playing on the phone, flicking around, sliding, you know, and then the mom being ignored, right? Are you paying attention to me? Are you listening? It was the mom who was addicted to her phone. She wouldn't put it down. And this poor kid, who's a teenager, was wanting to talk about science class and this project that he was working on and all these things, and mom was having none of it. And there was a part of me that wanted to go over there and just grab her phone and, again, say, put down your damn phone already. But, you know, I almost wanted the kid to do it. I wanted the kid to stand up for himself and be like, Mom, I'm talking to you. Because there's going to be a time when he's not going to be so forthcoming and he'll, you know, so how was school today? Good. What did you do? Stuff. Instead, he's wanting to engage. He's wanting to have conversation with you and tell you about his day. And she just didn't care. She just didn't care. I felt it was quite sad. I felt bad for him. But then there's the flip side of that. So let's say that you're out for dinner. You might be on a date or, you know, whatever. And you have your phone on vibrate in your pocket and you can feel it vibrating. So you know you've got emails or texts or whatever it is. Are you the person to excuse yourself and go to the washroom, go into the stall, and then start flipping through your phone? Or you're one of the people who stays back at the table, you wait until the coast is clear, you see them turn the corner and go to the washroom, and then quickly you pull out your phone, right? Because, you know, you don't want to look like you're left alone at the table sitting there doing nothing, so that's your excuse, is that you pull out your phone to be occupied for a little while. But definitely you do it. Definitely you take that opportunity. And there should almost just be a point where you go and say, you know what? I'm just going to go excuse myself to the bar. I need to flip through my phone for 2 minutes because that's what you're both going to do anyway. But it does seem impolite to do that. So then, you know, once you're in the washroom stall, you're kind of like, all right, has it been long enough? Does it feel like I actually took a crap? Is this how long it would take to go have a bowel movement? And then you go back like you actually did go to the washroom. And then again, the flip side of that, you're counting down if you're left at the table and you're wondering, okay, I've got probably about 30 seconds, right? She doesn't have to pee that long. That's not going to take that long. And then you see them come around the corner, but you're looking around casually because you don't want to make it seem like you're staring and, you know, watching them come back. And then, oh, hey, nice seeing you again. Didn't realize you were gone. Yeah, you were on your phone. Both of you were on your phone. Fess up, admit it. Right? That's what was going on. The best part, and when you're at an airplane, one more quick story, is that's the funniest thing, was back in the day before all of these charging stations were everywhere, you would see people, there'd be a nice big comfy couch, right, 5 feet away, 10 feet away, and there's somebody sitting on the floor leaning up against the wall because they've got their device plugged in. I guess back in the day it was your laptop, now it's your phones. And then on the flip side now you've got these charging stations, which they really should make you pay for. They should charge you to use those. They would make a killing because people would, right? People would pay. It's like when they taxed cigarettes and alcohol to, you know, so it's crazy, ridiculously expensive. People still pay for it. A phone charger, that I almost want to make a business of that. Have a little generator at the airport and charge people to plug in. And there really ought to be a time limit, because you'll see that there's people that are sitting there for the entire time, 2 hours even, with their devices plugged in, not paying any attention to others around you. And that's fine, they don't have to, but definitely there's a courtesy, I would think, when you're sitting there and using... You can see people are hovering, right? You can always tell. I like observing. I like sitting back. I'm not one of those people who uses those because I can just plug it into my computer and charge it that way. But there's the people that are circling, but they don't want to make it look like they're looking for an outlet. They're just kind of, well, I'll just do a pass by. I'll just do a breeze through and then happen to notice. But then you can tell they're seriously waiting for one of those outlets. If I wanted to be a dick, I would actually be one of those people that, because I noticed you doing it, that I'm just going to take even longer, because I'm a horrible person like that. And then once you're out of the terminal and you're on the plane now, like, how many times have you seen the flight attendant say to somebody, at least twice, sir, you have to put away your phone now. You have to power that down. You have to put... And they still don't, right? And then once the flight attendant walks by, they whip out their phone again anyway. So I'd love to hear from a flight attendant on this. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, because I'm sure it's like just the bane of their existence. That's probably the one complaint that most flight attendants have. If you are a flight attendant, or you know a flight attendant, have them email me and tell me what their thoughts are on obnoxious cell phone use. Because once you're going and you're taxiing, you're getting ready for takeoff, they're already in their little seat and strapped in with their little harness thing. That's another prime opportunity for people to use their phone. How do I know? Because I've done it. There, look at me talking about breaking the airplane laws. But certainly then when you're in flight, and if you don't have Wi-Fi, it's probably just killing you that you can't connect to your phone. Because how many times have you just been about to power off your device and you go and send just a flurry of emails and texts and messages? People probably didn't even know that you were flying anywhere, but you're just letting them know, oh, just getting on the plane now, flying to New York or flying to LA. But it's kind of like, well, I didn't know that you were going in the first place, so what do I care? You just feel that need to tell people, hey, if you don't hear from me, if I don't respond within 15 seconds of your message, it's because I'm on an airplane. Well, how close were you to those people that they didn't even know you were flying anywhere in the first place? And then, as you're approaching your destination, you've got the people who are powering them up because, oh, you know what, I think we might have signal right now. There might be a reception here. Let me just turn on the phone. And then you feel it vibrating or looking at it because you have it on silent. Then there's that self-importance that you're looking going, I got 6 emails during that flight. And you almost want to show the person beside you because that's how important you were, that 6 people thought of you. Or they were just random notifications because you'd signed up for deals from Macy's or something like that. That's just the way people are. And then again, once you're in the terminal, you have that phone right away. That's more obnoxious than the people who are standing up. As soon as you land, that are standing up right away. It's like, people... We're going to be here for another 3 or 4 minutes anyway. You don't need to stand because you're not going anywhere. If anything, you're actually just making it now a crowded fire hazard because people are just randomly standing up for absolutely no reason. Boy, I can go on another whole rant about airplanes and airline etiquette, but I won't. Again, the book is called Put Down Your Damn Phone Already, a loving rant about your obnoxious cell phone use. You can get it at putdownyourdamnphone.com or on Amazon and iTunes. Would love to hear your thoughts again. Send an email live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com, or tweet us up at The Scribble Show.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here on the Scribble. I was cleaning my office last week. First of all, that's very rare because I have people that clean my house for me, but I was cleaning my office. Actually, I was looking for something, and so then it just kind of turned into a cleaning moment. Have you ever had that where you're like, okay, I'm just going to wash the dishes, and you end up doing like a full-on kitchen clean? So I was looking for something, and then I came across different cards that I got like for Christmas or my birthday, and when you've got nephews or nieces or whatever, and they're in school, so you get their school pictures, or they do their pictures with Santa and you get them. Well, I have a hard time throwing things like that out, and so I feel it's just like when you throw out a picture of a person, like to me there's just a bit more significance in that. Like I feel it's kind of like you're throwing them away. Like there's a symbolic kind of weird thing. And so I have an issue with like throwing out a card. Maybe I got a birthday card from my grandma or the Christmas card from my grandparents. Like is it disrespectful to throw those things out? They might be 5 years old, 6 years old. Maybe I got it when I was a kid, but I hang on to them. And it's not that I look at them. I don't reference them. I don't have them on the wall. I don't have them on a shelf. I don't do anything like that. But it just feels disrespectful to throw out a greeting card from my grandparents. I'm going to give, again, the email address, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Tell me what you think of that. Is it disrespectful? Like, how long should you keep it? Is there a period of time, an appropriate length of time, that you keep things like that? My nephews made me a birthday card one year. 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I still have it. Is it wrong to throw it out? So there was a moment when I was cleaning my office that I actually did throw them out, but then went into the big garbage bag and pulled them out, and then I put them in a drawer. So again, nothing that I'm really ever going to look at again, presumably, but I decided to hang on to it and keep it because it seemed disrespectful to throw it out. And again, same thing with like their pictures with Santa and things like that. You're throwing out a picture of your family members. Is it weird? Am I just overthinking it? I think I probably am. But again, would love to know your thoughts. It's sentimental value, yes. But, the kids, they're 5 years older now. They're 10 years old. They're not little kids anymore. Do you hang on to them? Now, as the grandparent, yes, my mom and dad hang on to all those things, just like they have all of them from when I was a kid and when my brothers were kids. But I'm the uncle, right? And it's the same thing when I went to a first birthday a couple weeks ago, talked about that here on the show, and I have the invitation still. I still have the invitation. Not that I'm a pack rat. It has nothing to do with being a pack rat. It's that, am I going to feel bad that I've thrown out the picture of my friend's son on this invitation? I don't know. This is a dilemma that I was sitting on the floor in my office, throwing out things, which is funny because I had no problem throwing out a bunch of my own things from work or, personal life. But when it came to stuff from other people, I had an issue. Live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Could you imagine if I was closer with my family and I just had all these different things from them? My house would be packed with things, which, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but, there's that moment where you have to just kind of let go and think. We've got a very big family. I've got 4 nephews, 1 niece, 2 older brothers, 2 sisters-in-law, my 2 parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. I really could have an entire museum in a spare bedroom of my house with all of this family stuff. Again, it's a good thing I'm not that close with them. But then there's that guilt. There's that guilt of throwing it away. I don't know. live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble again. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Let's talk TV for just a second. It's interesting that, you have your favorite TV shows either when you're growing up or just from back in the day, and then there's kind of that glimmer of hope that I wish it was back on TV again. Well, that's what happened with Full House, right? Netflix put out Fuller House, and I just watched, I think about 10 of the episodes. I think there's 13 episodes in season 1, and I watched about 10 of them. First episode, all the cast was back together, so it was actually kind of cool to see everybody. And everybody really looks the same, even though it's like 20 years later. And then when you get into like the meat and potatoes of episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the whole show was about DJ and her love triangle and her being, a single mom raising kids after her husband tragically died. It was like a bad Disney show. And I realized that back in the day, sitcoms, the family sitcom, didn't have any risque jokes. It was very like clean, laughable fun. And you had the laugh track from the audience, and, it was just all very, I don't even know. It was very watered down. Now, obviously, we've got a different sense of comedy because it's all about sex and double entendres and naughty humor. And so I think that everybody was excited for Fuller House. Now, the interesting thing was I had watched the episodes, and then I went online to see what the critics said. Because if I listened or I read what the critics had to say, I would already be skewed going in and watching it. So I was kind of like, you know what, I might as well watch this. So I viewed it, and I don't know, I wasn't impressed. You've got the little kid who just shouts his lines. You've got Stephanie Tanner, like the middle sister, is all of a sudden like this world-renowned DJ and singer. And I noticed that almost every episode had some kind of a dance scene or song. And I don't know. I didn't care for it. And then, about a month or so ago, before the presidential election, actually I guess it was a while ago, the cast of Will and Grace got back together, right? They did like a 10-minute sketch pro-Hillary, don't vote for Donald. And, well, Karen, if you remember the show, Karen Walker was pro-Trump and everybody else was voting Clinton. And everybody's jazzed and pumped for there to be a Will and Grace reunion back on NBC. Apparently there's reports that, they're still in early talks for the show to come back. But I felt that watching that Will, Grace, and Jack, that would be Deborah Messing, Eric McCormick, and, Sean Hayes. There we are, thank you. They were Sean was a little bit stiff doing his Jack movements. Karen, Megan Mullally, was a little bit, I don't know, I felt like she didn't have the voice quite right or something, so I was disappointed in her performance. But again, this is one of those things where should the show just die? Like, should it just be over? Is it going to be the same? Will the story, remember, you're going back about 10 or 15 years, the audience has changed, you've grown up, your humor is a little bit different. So will it actually ruin the show if they bring it back and redo it? I don't know. I would love to see Will and Grace forever. But again, you get to a point, the show eventually gets canceled because they run out of storylines, right? So will they pick it up like it's now 15 years later? Will they pick it up like no time had passed and there's still Will, Grace, Karen, and Jack? Like I said, Karen, Megan Mullally, she's kind of aged a little bit. She didn't have the voice quite right for me. So I found that distracting when I was watching that 10-minute clip when they were doing the voting thing. So I don't know. Will I watch it if they come back? I would probably watch, an episode or two just because the hype would be so crazy. But then will I be disappointed and will it ruin Will and Grace for me forever? I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Send me an email. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. I feel the same way about Married with Children. I loved the show for the first, however many, 3, 4, 5 years. But then, when TV shows start to throw in new cast members, they had that little boy, then they had a new dog. It just changes the dynamic, and it's not the same. But I would love to have Married with Children come back. Now, again, humor has changed on television, right? Everything is offensive. As we say, Black Fridays matter. But the jokes they made about fat people and about women and, everything, it just wouldn't fly on TV these days, even for Married with Children, right? The lowbrow comedy it was called back in the day, and I guess still sort of is when you think about it. But again, would love to see that cast get together. Everybody's sort of moved on. I think the great thing about Full House, though, was that none of the actors have really had any sort of major roles lately, aside from Candace Cameron, although even then she kind of is hosting on The View once every 4 months, it seems. But that's a good thing. I can't tolerate her in that voice. But anyway, share your thoughts with me live@jbonair.com. We'll be back right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
That's right, Larson. On Twitter, at The Scribble Show. At The Scribble Show on Twitter. And again, my Twitter is at Jeremy D. Bradley. Jeremy, Jeremy, the letter D, Bradley, Bradley. I'm so used to referring to myself as JB, and everybody at the office calls me JB, that it sounds weird when I say my full first name, Jeremy. There we are. Oh, thanks for tuning in and listening to another 30 minutes of rants. I love mixing this in every once in a while when we do, some shows will pack with celebrity guests, and then I get to rant and rave for 30 minutes, and it's a good time. So I thank you for joining us and subscribing at The Scribble Show, scribbleshow.com, and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Happy, safe Black Friday, happy Thanksgiving to our American listeners. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,